technology.
He got the John
DeLorean, the Watergate tapes.
Waco and
the Waco, the World's Fair, this boat called the Shangri-La that was a floating arms bazaar. He's associated with that story. Anyway, he's what I would call the classic intriguer. He died a few years ago. I spoke to him one time, and he was pretty impressed with me. He said, "Oh, Paul, if I get over to L.A., I'll have to invite you out to dinner, to lunch sometime." But that never happened. So anyway, I think I think he was more talk than action, but he was he was pretty classic intriguer, as I said.
Yeah, he talks about dating Elizabeth Taylor and stuff. He said the day of the Kennedy assassination, he was in bed with Elizabeth Taylor.
No, he didn't say he was in bed with her. He said he was at Toots Shores with her, didn't he?
No, that's my memory. My own memory is probably flawed. I'm sure. Okay. So,
he was a pretty good-looking guy, though.
Anyway, his young years.
I don't think he was making a claim that was that extravagant.
Okay.
It was Liz Taylor, though.
I don't know that Liz Taylor ever mentioned his name at all, that I know of.
No, but he mentioned her name.
Oh, I believe so, yeah. On the Kerry Cassidy, the Kerry Cassidy tape, where he talked about getting a hold of some UFO secrets from him. He got a hold of some technology or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free energy. Time travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a serious guy on other levels. A very serious guy. Now, that's
okay.
Gordon.
So, you're presuming the audience already knows who Gordon Liddy is. So then you were asking me, who's Mitch Werbell? Mitch Werbell, he has various nicknames. One of them is the Wizard of Whispering Death. He's a American intelligence community affiliated individual who designed all these fancy weapons, automatic weapons, the Ingram Mac 11 or Mac 10, one of those.
Really?
And he designed silencers for some of these sophisticated weapons. And he was not only pals with some of the other intriguers whose names have come up in connection with the Kennedy assassination, but he also employed them later in the 70s with his company called Parabellum, which designed these weapons. And that would include Jerry Patrick Hemming. It includes the late Edwin Kaiser, and it includes Anselmo Allegro, this Cuban exile guy who's tied in with the Lansky crowd and so on. The Lansky crowd, the Cuban exiles. And Werbell died shortly after. He was an alcoholic, smoked and drank a lot. And he died somewhat mysteriously while in the employ of Larry Flynt. And we did hear at the time that the rumor was that somehow Larry Flynt had killed him, or one of Larry Flynt's employees, such as William Ryder, killed Werbell. And I believe the files refer to that.
Now, wait, let me ask you a question real quick. Ryder is missing in action. No one knows what Ryder is, right?
I don't know. You probably know better than I do.
As far as I know, he's untraceable at this stage of life, which is interesting. But real quick, though.
Most prisoners, though, if they're serving the standard sentence, you can keep track of them. It's only when they, have some informant status, such as Carlos later, that you sort of lose track of them, right?
But the thing, and NDOC, you can find anybody. A quick 10-second search. There's no state in the country you can't find an inmate. But the thing is, he's serving time. Ryder's serving time for what?
I don't know.
No, I don't.
But
believe
I would imagine that any sentence that he was serving time for, he's probably already served, and he's probably out now.
Well, I know he wasn't charged. He wasn't charged in the Robert Evans murder. Excuse me, raided murder. Okay, which Robert Evans was never charged in either.
Was Ryder connected with was Ryder connected with was he convicted of any murders?
I don't believe he was ever convicted of any murders. No, it was his gun that Bill Menser used to kill Roy Radin, and then Ryder went to the cops and turned everybody in, and admitted, yeah, I gave him this gun. The story isn't public. Is I gave him this gun to go commit a murder.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he walked.
Well, yeah. Well, the first guy who cooperates does tend to do that.
Yeah.
So he probably did well for himself, and he's out and about. Whether he's still working for the government is probably anyone's guess.
Now, you were discussing this death of Mich Werbell, where he died of the coroner said it was a bad heart, right? But there wasn't
right, and that's what we presumed that it probably was. We presumed that was the most likely explanation. Certainly, no one has ever been charged in connection with the death of Mich Werbell.
But the thing is, these FBI documents, they discuss that Larry Flynt had given him a check of $1 million to go kill Bob Guccione, Hugh Hefner, and I think Attenberger, the other guy, the publisher. And I believe it was even a couple of other people. And that an aide to Larry Flynt put stop payment on the check. So there was a check written, because we know that a stop payment was paid on this check. And that was Flynt's motive for going after and murdering Werbell. And the FBI documents mention some litigation, a court case, where a witness stated that it was Larry Flynt's brother-in-law who put the potion or the medication in Mr. Werbell's drink to cause his heart to slow down and stop.
Is the brother-in-law William Ryder?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Maybe I only started looking at this file last night, and I didn't. 300 pages, and I guess I went through about the first 90 pages.
Well, you were there, you lived it, So now, did you hear anything about that? The $1 million hit to kill Hugh Hefner.
I think we heard about a feud between Flynt and Guccione. That still rings a bell. But not that they cut a check for that purpose. That sounds like something I didn't know about. What I think is that that Flynt was taking these really high potency opiates.
Oh yeah,
because he was in so much pain, and I think a lot of what he was doing was just highly irrational, and I don't know how much he was fully conscious of what he was doing, and I think it was one of these circumstances where the people around him decided to sort of do what they could to protect him, and so. If he's going to cut a check like that for that purpose and implicate himself in such a way, they're going to take some action to see that he doesn't get charged with something that's just that blatant.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier too that Jerry Hemming, right?
Jerry Hemming,
right?
Yeah.
Have you ever read A.J. Weberman's book about Jerry? Jerry Did It.
I have that book, and I'm probably one of the few people who has that book.
Yeah.
But I have not read it all the way through. And most people do not go so far as to accuse Hemming directly of being involved in the assassination. Now, I don't feel I'm in a position to weigh in on that one way or the other.
Yeah, I had.
It wouldn't surprise me if he was, but I will say this: if he was in fact involved directly himself, he was playing an awfully risky game by becoming involved in it. He first inserted himself into the whole controversy when he showed up with a couple of his pals in Jim Garrison's office in 1967, and started talking about these people that he had odds with, who were also American mercenaries involved with the anti-Castro Cubans. And that is, in fact, how Lauren Hall. Well, no, that's not the first time that Lauren Hall was in, because Lauren Hall first came up when the Warren report was going to press, and they were in a quandary to have to account for the Sylvia Odio story. And she was a pretty credible individual, and she claimed that Lee Harvey Oswald had showed up at her house in September '63 in the company of a couple of anti-Castro exiles. And the Warren Commission was not able to explain the story away easily, but they got an out when Lauren Hall was presented as a possible person who had visited her, but he denied it, and the people that were said to have been with him also denied it. The net result of the whole thing was that the account was not knocked down, but it was determined that Lee Harvey Oswald could not have both been at her place and have been on his way to Mexico City at the same time, because a person can't be in two places at once. However, an imposter can be in one place and the real one can be in the other place. A lot of people believe now that one of the anti-Castro Cubans who visited Sylvia Oyo, whether in the company of the real Lee Harvey Oswald or an imposter, was the infamous Bernardo de Torres, who was a very intriguing figure, sometime friend and compatriot of Jerry Patrick Hemming. But and I'm not sure the chronology here, but Hemming and Laborde, I don't know, one or two of the other mercenaries showed up at Garrison's office in '67. And that was either before or after Bernardo de Torres had offered his services to Garrison as a private investigator who mainly operated out of Miami, but who knew a lot of the anti-Castro exiles in New Orleans. He offered his services to Garrison, and one of the first assignments he had was to go to look up this guy who was a pal of David Ferry's, named Eladio Del Valle, who had been running anti-Castro operations, errands. Sometimes they would drop bombs, sometimes they would just drop leaflets. And supposedly the story was that Ferry, before he died, had implicated Del Valle, and that Garrison sent Bernardo de Torres to find him, but before de Torres could find him, de Valle was found dead. This is February 22nd, 1967, the same date that Ferry was found dead.
Wow.
Now, the podcast we mentioned has cast doubt on some of these facts and suggests that the person that de Torres was really searching for in Miami was not Del Valle, but was another guy named Mario Garcia Gonzalez or something. Who's rather an obscure figure.
I'm beginning to realize that some of these facts are a little obscure for the purpose of this.
Yeah, that's so true. So Ted.